Hello, welcome to Thursday's Thoughtful Thoughts. This month we're going to do something a little different for Thursday Thoughtful Thoughts, and that you're stuck with me for the entire month as we dig a little deeper into one specific topic, and that topic is your finances. That's a topic that's probably on most people's minds right now, as we know our lives have been impacted by coronavirus, and many people have had changes at work and they're dealing with the implications of that. And also, we're looking ahead at the economy and the price of oil and how that's going to play long term out in our province. And so, we wanted to take some time and give you some tools and help you to be a little proactive in this area. But when we think about finances, I naturally think about the story of a father who sent his son to the store to get a loaf of bread. He gave his son $5 and told him to go get the loaf of bread, and the son came back a little bit later, and when he returned, he handed his dad the loaf of bread. His dad said, "Where's the change?" And the son said, "They didn't give me any change." And the father, with a kind of a perplexed look on his face, turned and said, "Well, that doesn't make any sense." Seriously, though, I want to just begin with really the basic idea of managing our money. And the reality is that managing our money is not that complicated. But there are two things that are working against us when it comes to managing our money. The first one is that most of us were never taught how to manage our money. Most people, if you look back in your life, never received any training on what it's like to handle money, on how to do it right, how to do it wrong, what that looks like. We just kind of picked up our parents' habits, and what we saw our parents do, we started to do ourselves. And if they had good habits, that's great. But if they didn't have good habits, then we could quite possibly be living under some bad habits that they wouldn't want to have lived under if they could have known better, and that they certainly wouldn't want us to live under. The result is that most people live their lives financially reactively instead of proactively. And part of managing our money is living proactively. We want to make sure that we're doing that. We're going to look at that a little deeper when we get into the topic of budgeting in a couple of weeks. But for right now, let's just realize that if you've never had some time to learn how to manage your money, then you need to actually get proactive and learn how to do this. It's not something that just comes natural. The second thing is that managing money just requires discipline. There are too many companies, there are too many people who want your money. And we know that. Companies spend billions and billions of dollars every year on advertising to sell you products, not because they want you to have that product, but because they want your money. And there are a lot of forces at work to separate you from your money. And if we don't have the discipline to put some safeguards in our place, then we are naturally going to allow our money to be separated from us, and that is not the way that we want to live. One final thought I want to leave with you this week, and just take this and think about it before we meet again next week, is this. Live below your means. We've often heard it said live within your means, but that's not as accurate as we want. If we just live within our means and we're just right at that borderline, what happens when some unforeseen expense comes our way? What happens when our car breaks down or something else happens that we weren't planning for? We're right at the borderline and we don't have any margin in our lives, and as a result, we are forced to go into debt or put it on a credit card or do something that we don't want to do to handle that unexpected expense. So your expenses have to be less than your income. And if that's not the case, you only have two options. One is to increase income, and the second is to decrease your expenses. If you don't know if your income is more than your expenses, find out. Look at your income for the last 3 months. Look at all your expenses for the last 3 months. It may be a really sobering thing to have to look at, but I guarantee you, even though it may be a little unnerving at first, in the long run, it is something well worth discovering. One final note is this. There's a great resource for you I want to recommend. It's Dave Ramsey's book. It is called The Total Money Makeover. It is a very worthwhile investment. And so I would just recommend, if you want to get started with learning how to manage your finances even better, start right there. We'll see you next week as we look at another part of this topic of your finances. Have a great week.